friends, welcome back, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Stacy and I am the Chapter Conundrum, and in today's video we're going to revisit the mid-year freakout tag because it is that time of year again. June is over, so we are officially halfway through the year, and man, has this year flown by so far in terms of reading. I just have not been reading as much as I usually do, which does have me a little freaked out, but here's hoping the second half of the year is much stronger reading wise, and we do still have a lot of books to talk about today. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first question or prompt is the best book you've read so far in 2025. And for me, that is Malice, the first book in the Faithful and the Fallen series. So this was kind of a bit of a slower one to get into. I have a video coming on that, or a video out on that, depending on when you're seeing this. This definitely takes its time introducing you to different characters in different spots in the world. And it takes you a while to sort of get into like what is happening in each of their stories. But once you have all of that sort of under your belt, the story it tells and the way it tells that story with the amount of detail it has and the clues and foreshadowing woven in were really enjoyable for me to read through because I had so many theories on things and guesses as I was reading. This left me wanting more, but also had me very satisfied with the answers I got. And just overall, a fantastic read that had me absorbed throughout. It was definitely 5 stars, and yeah, my favorite so far. I really need to get through all the sequels later this year. Speaking of sequels, question 2 is the best sequel you've read so far this year. And for me, I'm gonna say that is Moon of the Turning Leaves by Wabgishig Rice. Now, this is a local author to my hometown, and that is part of what made this installment in the series kind of special. So book 1 in the series, Moon of the Crusted Snow, takes place more on a remote northern Ontario reserve, but some time has passed between book 1 and book 2, and in book 2, we're sort of traveling southward towards our hometown area. I really enjoyed that there were some Easter eggs in there for locals, and that he chose to describe some local landmarks that I instantly recognized as he was describing them. But further to that, I really enjoyed the perspective of the main character we got in here. We follow sort of the next generation, and I just enjoyed Nangong's character a lot more and thought that this was a big step up from Moon of the Crusted Snow. So yeah, definitely my favorite sequel so far this year. Question 3 is to talk about a new release that you haven't read yet but want to, and for this I'm gonna talk about Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. And this was gifted to me by my husband Jake, but it also came out this February, and I have read and enjoyed many of Ali Hazelwood's contemporary romance books, so I don't know why I've been slacking so much on this one. I think it's just too many books, not enough time, but I am really looking forward to this one, and from what I know, it follows some college swimmers, and I think it also involves fake dating or like relationship of convenience, one of those. But yeah, I'm definitely curious to get to this one and check it out and have a good feeling about it. Number 4 is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and this could be many things depending on what happens to be announced soon, but as of right now, I'm gonna say it's Falling in a Sea of Stars by Kristen Britton, which is the 8th book in the Green Rider series. And we have a read-along of this that I am behind on, but I plan to catch up in the month of July, and books 1 through 3 are rereads for me, and then 4 onwards are first-time reads, but I have loved book 2 and book 3 in this series, and I definitely have a good time reading them, so I'm definitely curious to catch up on the series and looking forward to continuing on with the journey. Question 5 is your biggest disappointment, and this has definitely got to be Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney. So prior to this, I have read at least 3 Alice Feeney books that I have liked, but Beautiful Ugly was just not it for me. I really kind of hated the twist that the story took, especially because once things were revealed, the story made even less sense. There were some logical flaws and kind of holes with what the author said happened that didn't really make a ton of sense, and it really kind of ruined the story for me, which was really sad because I have loved some of her other books. Like His and Hers was a fantastic read that I had a great time with. So yeah, definitely Beautiful Ugly on this one. Question 6 is your biggest surprise, and for me, I'm gonna say it's Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. So this is an accidental pregnancy romance after a one-night stand, and that's not something I would usually gravitate towards, so I was kind of like, oh, okay. But it is a Canadian author from Ontario, and reading contemporary romance from authors from my home province tends to take me back home in a way, and I really enjoy the experience of that. So I wanted to give this one a try, especially because it came highly recommended from other channels that I watch, and I was not disappointed. This was excellent. What I didn't know going in was that the humor was hilarious. I was laughing out loud listening to the audiobook. Like, Jake and I were outside doing yard work in the backyard, and I would just like burst out giggling, and he would just look at me funny and be like, what is going on? But yeah, it was fantastic. I had a fabulous time reading it. And even though it's a trope I don't usually like, I loved this and gave it 5 stars. Prompt 7 is favorite new author. So either a debut author or new to you author. And we've already talked about Malice. This was my first John Gwynne. So yeah, definitely looking forward to reading more of his stuff. But another one that we haven't talked about yet that's new to me in 2025 is Matt Dinniman, because I finally started the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, and I am having a great time with those books. Now, are they like the best structured books ever written? No, but they're a fantastic time and I am loving my read of them. So yeah, definitely a new favorite in that vein. Question 8 is newest fictional crush. And I actually haven't been reading a ton of new romance or new fantasy romance series, especially ones that I hadn't started prior to 2025. So I didn't really have a ton of options for this, but one popular series I did finally pick up and read in 2025 is the Empyrean series, so Fourth Wing. And so I'm gonna say Zayden Ryerson here. If you've read them, I'm sure you understand. Prompt 9 is newest favorite character, and I've tried to mostly pull from books I haven't talked about with these questions, but this one has to pull from 2 that I've already mentioned. So Castell from Malice was a favorite when I was reading this, and then Princess Donut from Dungeon Crawler Carl. They're very different from each other, but with Castell, it was just something about his character voice that drew me in. I think it was just the way that he looked at things that were happening around him and his personality dynamic that had me interested. And with Princess Donut, it's definitely that she's very opinionated and very funny. So prompt 10 is to talk about a book that made you cry. And for me, I'm not necessarily a sad crier. I'm more of an angry crier, or like when a character is facing an injustice or just like a really awful situation, that's more prone to make me cry than just something sad. So I do have 2 that have managed to make me shed tears so far this year. The first of those is The House of My Mother by Sherry Frankie, and this is a nonfiction memoir of the oldest daughter in the Frankie family. And if you don't know who that is, they had a family blog channel called 8 Passengers, and the mother and the family counselor have since been arrested and imprisoned on like abuse and neglect charges. So you can just imagine everything that the oldest daughter in this family went through and saw. And definitely there are moments in this book where she's recounting her experience that hurt your heart. But it's also an important read because she talks about how there are laws in place to protect kids that are like in her siblings' situations that are not helpful to her family situation and everything they went through. And so yeah, I think it's an important read, and an important discussion could be had based on that read. But yeah, definitely hurt my heart while I was reading and had me crying. The second book that had me shed some tears is Rebel Witch by Kristen Ciccarelli, the second book in the Crimson Moth duology. And this one was more of just an emotional roller coaster. So I had moments that were really happy and moments that had me sad, moments that had me angry. But yeah, there's definitely a scene in here that had me shedding some tears. And definitely plays into sort of like the miscommunication that the main characters had, but it's very understandable and realistic in this series. And I know miscommunication can kind of go either way, but I really enjoyed it here. And yeah, had me frustrated to the point where I was crying at one point. This is definitely a really good series that I recommend, and I'm so glad that I picked up and read the sequel and finished it out within a reasonable time, because it definitely had me more emotionally invested than if I had waited between the installments. Prompt 11 is the reverse of that, a book that made you happy. And for that, we're going to talk about Dungeons and Drama by Christy Boyce. And this is a young adult fake dating romance, and obviously has some nerdy elements with the nod to D&D. And I typically don't reach for young adult romance anymore, and this kind of had me questioning that decision because I had a great time with it. I really loved how emotive and reactive our main character was in here, and I also really liked the relationship dynamic that these two had. But further to that, the nerdy elements in here just made my heart happy too. I am picking up the sequel in July. My library hold for it came in, and I'm hoping that I like it just as much. I'll have to keep you guys posted with my wrap up. Question 12 is the most beautiful book you've bought or received so far this year. And for me, that's going to be The Book That Held Her Heart by Mark Lawrence, the third book in the library trilogy. And this was gifted to me for my birthday from Fina. So thank you very much, Fina, for that. But this kind of like deeper purple color is my favorite color. And I just love like how much detail is on these covers. But yeah, this is definitely the prettiest book I've gotten so far this year. And the final prompt, prompt 13, is what books do you still need to read by the end of this year? And there are a fair few that I still need to get to. Definitely one that I've already mentioned here, the sequels to Faithful and the Fallen, so Valor, Ruin, and Wrath. I would absolutely love to finish out Plated Prisoner finally and pick up Goldfinch, the 6th and final book in that. I have been wanting to get to Blood Over Brighthaven for bloody forever, and it never happens because I'm always behind on other read-alongs. So yeah, those are some that I would definitely say I need to get to. But also, if you're curious, my husband Jake and I did a check-in on our 25 books to read in 2025 list. So I will go ahead and link that video up here. I definitely need to finish reading out all the books on that list too. So that was it for the mid-year freakout tag. Let me know down below in the comments, what have your favorite books and your most surprising books of 2025 been so far? Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe on your way out if you want to, and have a great day. Bye!